I was heading to bed that night, lights off, house quiet except for the hum of the fridge. Then I heard my daughter-in-law's voice through the cracked door of the master bedroom. She was on speakerphone with one of her friends, talking like I wasn't even there. "His room's too big for an old man," she said. "We can move him into the garage once the baby comes. He'll be fine out there." Her tone was light, casual, like rearranging furniture. I waited for my son to say something, anything. But I heard nothing from Marcus. Just the sound of him shifting in the bed. That silence said more than any word could. I stood there for a few seconds, long enough to know I'd heard exactly what I thought I heard. Then I turned and walked to the kitchen. I filled my cup with water, took a slow sip, and kept my back straight. I didn't make a sound. When Marcus came out a few minutes later, he stopped in the doorway. He looked at me like a man caught between two walls. "Dad," he said quietly. I didn't answer right away. I set the cup down. "You sleeping?" He shook his head. "Kayla didn't mean anything by that. She's just excited about the baby." I looked at him and kept my voice steady. "Babies need room, son. But respect needs space too." He lowered his eyes, nodded once, and went back to the room. I stood there a while longer. I wasn't angry yet. Just aware. When people start talking about you like your furniture, it means they've already moved you in their mind. That night, I didn't sleep much. The house felt different. Same walls, same air, but the warmth was gone. I woke before sunrise, like I always do. Old habits from 30-plus years driving a city bus don't fade. I made coffee, black and strong, and sat at the kitchen table. The house was still. I built this place in 1986. Back then, Lorraine, my wife, picked out the paint and curtains. We raised Marcus here, planted that pecan tree out front when he turned 5. I paid the mortgage early, fixed every pipe myself, and promised her I'd keep the place up even after she was gone. When Marcus and Kayla moved in last year, it was supposed to be temporary. "Just till the townhouse is ready," he said. I told them sure, plenty of space here. I gave them the master bedroom when Kayla got pregnant. Said it'd be easier for her. At first, it was good having company again. Dinners together, football on Sundays. Kayla liked to talk about her job, Marcus helped mow the lawn. I didn't mind paying the bills, I was just glad to have family in the house. But over time, things started to shift. Small things. Kayla changed the curtains without asking. She moved my old recliner into the den for better flow. She started calling the house our home when company came by. I let it slide. You learn which hills are worth standing on. That night, though, that conversation I overheard told me exactly how far they were willing to go. I sat at the table that morning, sipping coffee, listening to the pipes click as the water heater kicked on. My hands were steady. I told myself, don't react, don't argue, don't let pride get loud. Just pay attention. Marcus came in around 7, dressed for work, still avoiding my eyes. He poured himself some coffee and said, "Morning." "Morning," I answered. He sat down but didn't drink. "Kayla didn't mean what she said last night," he tried again. "She was just talking." "Talking tells the truth," I said. "Folks don't make plans they haven't thought about." He didn't argue. He just nodded and left. When the door closed, I looked around the kitchen, the cabinets I installed, the table Lorraine picked out, the family pictures on the wall. Everything in that room came from years of work, from hands that earned it. And I knew right then, I wasn't going to let anyone treat me like a guest in my own house. Not through yelling or fighting, but through something stronger than both. The morning after that phone call, the house looked the same, but it didn't feel the same. That's how disrespect works, it doesn't show up with a bang. It creeps in, rearranges the air, and waits for you to notice. I went about my day like usual. Brewed my coffee, checked the mail, walked out to the yard to see if the pecan tree dropped anything overnight. I planted that tree almost 40 years ago with Marcus sitting on my shoulders, helping me pack the soil. He was maybe 4 back then, small enough to fit in one arm. Lorraine took a picture that day, him smiling, dirt all over his face, me holding a shovel like it was part of who I was. That picture's still in the hallway. Kayla walked past it 100 times and never once asked about it. She hung her own decorations over most of Lorraine's old touches, new canvas prints, big quotes about home and family. None of it offended me. People want things to feel like theirs. But that morning, I noticed the difference. Her home wasn't about belonging, it was about ownership. I stepped back into the kitchen. The air smelled like the lavender candles Kayla loved burning. Nice scent, but too strong. Lorraine liked the smell of cornbread and lemon polish, things that made the place feel lived in. Marcus came out dressed for work, tie a little crooked. I'd fixed that same tie knot for him when he started his first job years back. That morning, he adjusted it himself, glancing at me like he wasn't sure if he should say anything. "You off to the office?" I asked. He nodded. "Yeah. Big week. Kayla's got an appointment later too." "The doctor?" He hesitated. "Yeah. Just a checkup." "Good," I said. "Baby's healthy?" "Yeah. Real healthy." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. He grabbed his keys and headed out. I watched from the porch as his car backed out of the driveway. The garage door was open, full of boxes, holiday decorations, tools, some of my old bus parts, and the rocking chair I'd built for Lorraine when she was sick. She used to sit in it and talk to me while I worked on the porch. Now it sat covered in a plastic sheet, pushed against the wall. Kayla came out later that morning in one of those soft robes, hair wrapped, phone in her hand. She was talking fast, something about color palettes and space optimization. I was trimming the edges of the yard, pretending not to listen. When she hung up, she waved politely. "Morning, Mr. Harris." "Morning," I said. She smiled. "You really keep this place up nice." "Old habit," I said. "Can't relax if the yard's messy." She laughed. "Well, you definitely keep busy." There was something in her tone, half compliment, half reminder that she saw me as someone killing time. Inside, I could hear her moving furniture around. Later I found my toolbox sitting by the hallway closet, moved without asking. Small things, but they add up. I've learned over the years that disrespect rarely starts loud. It begins with people moving your things. Then it moves you. That afternoon, I drove down to the grocery store. I go twice a week, mostly out of habit. The cashier, Denise, knows me by name. "How you been, Mr. Harris?" she asked. "Can't complain," I said. She smiled. "That's what you always say." Still true. I picked up a few things: coffee, oatmeal, cornbread mix, and a pack of diapers for Marcus. I'd been doing that lately. They never asked me to, but it felt right to help out. I left them on the counter when I got home. Kayla saw them later and said, "Oh, you didn't have to do that." "I know," I said. "That's why I did." She smiled again, polite but tight. Dinner that night was chicken and rice. I cooked. I always did most of the cooking, it's something I enjoy. Lorraine taught me that food can calm a house faster than any speech. Marcus came home late, tired. Kayla was setting the table, and for a moment, it almost felt normal again. We sat down, blessed the food, and ate mostly in silence. When Kayla talked, it was about her work, something about her company downsizing, and maybe working from home after maternity leave. Marcus nodded along but kept checking his phone. Then she said, "We might need to think about setting up a nursery sooner than later." Marcus glanced at me. I put my fork down. "Where were you thinking?" Kayla smiled. "We've been talking about how that front room could really work. It's got good light and enough space." She meant my room. I didn't respond. I took another bite, slow. Marcus cleared his throat. "Dad, we just meant, it's an idea. Nothing decided." I understand, I said. And I did. I understood exactly what was happening. After dinner, I washed the dishes, same as always. Kayla offered to help but didn't insist when I said I had it. That's how most people avoid guilt, they offer once, softly. When everything was clean, I sat out on the porch. The night air was heavy, warm, and full of crickets. I watched the neighborhood lights flicker on one by one. I'd been here long enough to know every sound on this street, the dogs, the cars, even which gate squeaked when the wind hit it right. I thought about Lorraine. She'd been gone 9 years now, but in moments like that, I could still hear her voice. She always said, "Len, don't ever let people mistake your kindness for blindness." I'd laughed the first time she said it, but I get it now. The next few weeks passed without much talk of the nursery, but things felt off. I noticed the way Kayla started using whine every sentence about the house. "We need to change the blinds. We should open up this wall. We could host Thanksgiving here this year." It wasn't just words. She started moving things, family photos, books, even Lorraine's old sewing kit. She packed it neatly and set it in the garage without asking. I found it one morning, sitting on a shelf next to a box labeled storage. I brought it back inside and set it on top of the hallway cabinet where it used to be. I didn't say a word. One afternoon, Miss Ora stopped by again. She's been my neighbor since before Marcus was born. She's one of those people who doesn't need to ask questions, she just looks at you and knows. She came with a plate of cornbread wrapped in foil. "You look tired," she said. "I'm all right," I told her. She looked toward the house. "You still got them staying here?" "Yeah. For now." She said. "For now can turn into forever if you don't watch it." I smiled. "They're family." "Family don't mean you stop being the man of the house," she said, handing me the plate. "Don't let nobody rewrite who built it." After she left, I sat at the table and ate a piece of cornbread with honey. I thought about what she said for a long time. Around that time, Marcus started spending more hours at work. He said it was for extra overtime, but I could tell he was staying out to avoid detention at home. Every time he came in, Kayla had another project going, painting walls, rearranging furniture, or sorting baby clothes into piles. She kept saying things like, "Once we get settled." I'd ask, "Settled where?" She'd laugh it off. "You know what I mean, Mr. Harris." I knew exactly what she meant. I stayed quiet because I wanted to give Marcus a chance to lead his own home. A father can guide, but he can't steer a grown man's marriage. I told myself maybe it was pregnancy hormones, maybe she just needed to feel prepared. But every time I walked past that garage, saw the empty space clearing out, I felt the same thought in my chest: they were getting ready to move me out of my own home. One night, Marcus came into my room. He looked nervous. "Dad, can I talk to you for a second?" "Always." He sat down on the edge of the bed. "Kayla feels like we're running out of space. I told her we'll figure something out, but she's just worried." "Worried about what?" I asked. "She says the baby's going to need a quiet room. Away from the noise." I looked at him. "What noise, Marcus?" "The only noise in this house is that refrigerator hum." He laughed a little, but his eyes stayed down. "I don't know, Dad. I think she's just stressed." I nodded slowly. "Then you be her peace. That's your job now." He looked up at me like he wanted to say something more, but he didn't. He just stood and left. I sat there a long while after he went to bed. I knew he was caught between being a husband and being a son. I also knew which one he'd choose if pushed hard enough. Life went on. I kept the house running, cut the grass, fixed the fence, kept groceries stocked. I didn't complain. But something inside me shifted. I started locking my bedroom door at night. Not because I was scared, but because I wanted to remind myself it was still mine. Every morning I'd wake up before them, make coffee, and read the paper at the kitchen table. I noticed Kayla started leaving design magazines there, open to pages of modern nurseries, white walls, soft lighting, everything brand new. One morning, I found a printed floor plan sketch on the counter. It showed the house, with one room marked nursery, the same room where I slept. I folded it neatly, put it in the drawer, and didn't say a word. That evening, Marcus came home, and we sat on the porch for a bit. You ever think about moving? We sat there in silence for a while. The porch light buzzed. The neighborhood kids were riding bikes up the street, laughing. I thought about how much had changed since those same bikes used to belong to Marcus and his friends. Back then, this house was loud with noise and love and people who respected the man paying the bills. Now it was filled with new paint, expensive candles, and quiet conversations that stopped when I walked into the room. It's a strange thing to feel unwelcome in the house you built. But it's worse when your own blood helps make you feel that way. I didn't tell anyone what I planned to do next. I just watched, waited, and stayed steady. The time for words had passed. The time for proof was coming. 2 weeks after that night, the house started telling on them without a single argument. Not with words, just with the little things people do when they think a decision is already made. I noticed the calendar first. It's a big dry erase board on the fridge. I use it for simple stuff, trash day, church choir practices I help with, dentist appointments. One morning, there was a neat note written in Kayla's handwriting, Saturday, clear garage. Under it, smaller, call insulation guy. No one asked me. No one even mentioned it. It just appeared like any other chore. I didn't erase it. I just circled it once with my finger, then poured my coffee. That same day a long package arrived on the porch. Marcus brought it in, tried to walk past me. The label said room divider, nursery. He must have seen me read it. You know how online shopping is, he said, eyes down. They send the wrong stuff half the time. I nodded. You gonna return it? He hesitated. We'll see. Kayla came in right then with her keys in her hand. Oh, it came early, she said, smiling. She cut the box open and slid out a folded white panel. This will help us create zones. Zones for what? I asked. For organization, she said, quick. Just trying to stay prepared. I didn't answer. I helped carry the panel to the hallway. When I set it down, I saw the tablet on the console table with an open list that read. Crib delivery window confirmed. Change dresser handles. Paint test, front room. Ask Len about moving the dresser to garage. The last line stayed on me. Ask Len. Not ask Dad. Not talk with him. Just move me around like I was part of the furniture. That Saturday, a man in a gray work shirt knocked on the door at 9 sharp. He introduced himself as Reggie, from an insulation company. Got a quote request for the garage, he said. Supposed to take measurements. I looked at Marcus. He couldn't hold eye contact. Yeah, go ahead, I said to Reggie. Let me unlock it. We went out together. Reggie was polite, careful. He measured the walls, checked the door, looked at the ceiling, and wrote numbers on a pad. We can make it decent, he said to me, not assuming anything. Still won't be like a bedroom, but better than raw. I know how garages are, I said. How much? He quoted a number that wasn't small. I nodded. Thank you for coming. Back inside, Kayla had paint swatches laid out on the kitchen table. She looked up bright. We're just testing colors, she said, like it was light conversation. Do you like warm or cool tones, Mr. Harris? Depends on the room, I said. We're thinking a soft green, she went on. It's calming for babies. I sat down, pulled the mail closer, and opened a bill. I could feel Marcus watching me. Dad, he started, this is just exploring options. Exploring is fine, I said. Just remember which rooms belong to who. Kayla pressed her lips together, then smiled again. Of course. The insulation quote sat on the counter all afternoon. Nobody touched it. Later that evening, I took it and slid it into the drawer where I keep warranties and manuals. Not hiding, just putting it where paperwork goes in my house. The following week, Kayla started moving things into the garage temporarily. She carried boxes from the hall closet, from the linen cabinet, from a shelf in the front room. "I'm making space to organize," she said. "Just until we sort what we keep." I watched the path she chose. She didn't move her boxes. She moved mine. Lorraine's sewing kit appeared out there again. I brought it back inside again. No comment. Just put it where it belongs. On Wednesday, a delivery truck backed into the driveway with flat boxes marked "Crib, Assembly Required." The driver asked for a signature. Kayla took the pen, excited, and said, "Put it in the front room." I stepped forward. "Put it in the dining room," I told the driver, calm. "We'll sort it there." He looked from her to me. "Dining room then," he said, and wheeled it in. Kayla exhaled through her nose. "We weren't trying to crowd your space," she said. "You're not," I said. "As long as it stays in shared space." That night, Marcus tried again on the porch. "Dad, can we talk about the plan?" he asked. "What plan is that?" I said. He picked at a splinter on the rail. "Just space." Kayla stressed. "She wants the baby to have the best start." "Me too," I said. "That's why I gave y'all the master last year without you asking." "I know," he said, quiet. "And why the garage?" I asked finally. He stared out at the street. "It's just an idea. It could be nice. We'll put down a rug, get a space heater, make it comfortable." "Comfortable for a man who paid off this mortgage?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. He swallowed. "Dad, I'm trying to keep peace." I looked at him. Peace without respect is just quiet. He didn't have a response. After a while, he said, "I'll talk to Kayla." The next morning, I found a folded budget printout on the counter. 2 columns, nursery and garage conversion. Under garage, heater, insulation, window film, divider, storage bins. Under nursery, crib, dresser, blackout curtains, front room paint. At the bottom, handwritten, "If Dad resists, compromise. Offer to pay utilities." I read it once, folded it back up, and slid it under the magnet where they'd left it. I didn't erase a word. On Thursday, Kayla's sister stopped by. I heard them in the hallway while I was fixing the bathroom faucet. The sister's voice was low. "You sure he's okay with this?" "He'll be fine," Kayla said. "He's sweet. And Marcus says he doesn't like conflict. We'll make it nice out there." "Still his house though," her sister said. Kayla whispered, like the house couldn't hear. "He acts like it's all of ours anyway." The faucet stopped dripping. I wiped my hands, opened the door, and walked past them to the kitchen. "Y'all want tea?" I asked. They both said no too fast. That night I wrote a small list in my notebook. Nothing dramatic. Just check property tax receipt, paid. Call plumber to snake line, prevent issues. Replace garage door seal, weather. Find deed copy, file box. I didn't write lawyer or sale or anything close to it. I wasn't there yet. I was still in the stage where a man makes sure his foundation is sound, in case somebody tries to lean on it. Friday brought a new detail. I came home from the hardware store and found the front room lamp unplugged, my chair pushed to the wall, and a tape line on the floor marking out a crib. Kayla stood in the doorway with a measuring app open on her phone. "We're just testing layout," she said. "Not moving you, just planning." I looked at the tape. It ran through the space where my nightstand sits. "Planning tends to turn into moving," I said. "Make sure you plan for that too." She forced a smile. "We just want the baby settled." "So do I," I said. "Settle him in his parents' room first, like most babies." That's how we did it here. She didn't reply. She knelt to move the tape a few inches and said, Marcus and I will discuss it. That evening, Miss Ora knocked with a stack of church flyers. She stepped in, looked down the hall, and took it all in. They measuring your life yet? She asked under her breath. Just rooms, I said. She said, the kind of sound that holds a whole paragraph. Remember who paid for the measuring tape? I walked her back to the porch. I'm trying not to be harsh, I told her. Harsh is a tone, she said. Boundaries are a fact. Facts don't have to yell. After she left, I sat on the porch and watched the evening roll in. Across the street, the Thompsons' grandkids were drawing chalk on the sidewalk. Laughter carried. I thought about how a home is supposed to feel when a baby arrives, fuller, louder in a good way, people leaning toward each other. What I felt instead was everyone leaning around me. On Sunday, after church, we had lunch together. Kayla was cheerful, talking about dates and timelines. Marcus kept his head down. At the end of the meal she said, so, we were thinking, maybe next month we start the garage improvements. It's just more practical. I set my fork down. Practical for who? She blinked. For all of us. I nodded once. That's not how I see it. Her voice lost a little polish. Mr. Harris, we're trying to do what's best for the baby. I looked at both of them, steady. What's best for the baby is two parents who know the difference between help and ownership. I've been helping. Don't confuse the two. No shouting. No big scene. We cleared the plates. I washed, they dried. Later, I heard them in the bedroom, voices low, not angry, just frustrated. Plans being adjusted, not abandoned. That night, I opened the hall closet and pulled down the fireproof box. I checked the tax receipt, the insurance, the survey from 2008, the trust papers with my name right where they've always been. I didn't take anything out. I put the box back and turned off the closet light. I wasn't done giving them the benefit of the doubt. But I was done pretending I didn't know where the wind was blowing. It was a Tuesday afternoon when the pretending ended. I was coming back from my weekly doctor's visit. Just a routine checkup, blood pressure and all that. I stopped by the pharmacy, picked up a small bottle of vitamins, and drove home with the window half open. The kind of afternoon where life feels steady. But the moment I pulled into the driveway, I saw two cars parked outside that didn't belong to us. One was a contractor van, the other a sedan with a Baby and Beyond Interiors decal on the door. I sat there for a second, hand on the steering wheel, watching a man in work boots carry a measuring laser into the house. I didn't rush. I just turned off the engine, stepped out, and followed them in. Kayla was in the hallway, directing them like she'd done it 100 times. That wall comes down, she was saying. The dresser can go there. We'll move his bed into the garage once the drywall's up. Her tone wasn't cruel. It was confident, practiced. Like she'd already lived in the result. I stood quietly behind her until she turned and saw me. Her face froze, color draining for a second before she found her smile. Oh, Mr. Harris, you're home early. I looked around the room. Tape lines on the floor, notes on sticky paper, sketches on the table. She had a full plan laid out. What's going on here? I asked. Kayla gestured toward the two men. Just getting quotes, that's all. We're exploring ideas for the nursery. I was going to tell you. When? She hesitated. Tonight. We didn't want to worry you until we had numbers. I nodded slowly. Numbers for what? For the remodel, she said. We're turning this front room into the baby's room. Marcus said it'd be fine. Marcus wasn't home. He was at work. I looked at the workers. You can stop measuring, I said calmly. The project's off. Kayla blinked. Excuse me? This house isn't being remodeled, I said. At least not today. You can send the quotes, but don't do another thing until I say so. The older of the two workers looked at her. "Ma'am?" Kayla forced a smile, but her voice cracked just a bit. "Give us a few minutes." The men nodded and walked out to their van. When the door closed, I turned to her. "You called contractors to redesign my room, and you didn't think to mention it." Her hands went to her hips. "We're all family here, Mr. Harris. We share this space. I just thought, since you're retired, you'd be more comfortable in the garage. We'd make it really nice. Add a rug, a TV, maybe a recliner. You could have your privacy." I stared at her for a moment. The words came out slow and clear. Privacy is what you give someone you respect. "You're talking about relocation." She sighed. "I think you're taking it the wrong way." "Maybe you said it the wrong way." "Marcus agreed we should look into options," she said. That was the first real sting. Marcus's name in her defense. I felt my chest tighten, not from anger, but from disappointment. I kept my voice even. "Did he tell you this house is paid off?" "Yes," she said. "And he told me he handles most of the bills now, so I figured." "You figured wrong," I said quietly. "Your husband contributes to groceries and the power bill. That's called being family, not ownership." She crossed her arms, lips pressed. "We're building a future here, Mr. Harris. We're not trying to take anything from you. We just need more space. The baby comes first." I nodded once. "You're right. The baby should come first. But not before integrity." She rolled her eyes, subtle but there. "I didn't mean it like that." "I know," I said. "That's what makes it worse." I picked up my jacket and walked past her toward the porch. She called after me, "Marcus will talk to you tonight." I didn't answer. Outside, the air was still. The sun hit the pecan tree just right, the same one Marcus and I planted when he was a boy. I sat on the porch steps and let my hands rest on my knees. I thought about Lorraine, about all the times she'd told me that love without respect always turns into management. That evening, Marcus came home. I heard the front door, the pause, then the shuffle of feet like he already knew the conversation waiting for him. He came out to the porch and sat next to me. "I heard what happened," he said quietly. "You agree with it?" He looked straight ahead. "I told her to wait until we talked to you." "She didn't wait." "I know." We sat there in silence for a while. The crickets started up in the yard. Finally, he said, "Dad, she's not trying to hurt you. She just wants to feel settled. It's her first baby." "I understand fear," I said. "But fear doesn't excuse disrespect." He rubbed his palms together. "You're right. I just don't know how to make both sides happy." "You can't," I said. "That's what happens when one side stops seeing the other as equal." He didn't say anything for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was small. "I'll handle it." "I believe you'll try," I said. "But I'll handle myself too." That night I sat at the kitchen table after everyone went to bed. The house was quiet again, but not peaceful. I opened the drawer where the insulation quote still sat, pulled it out, and read it once more. Then I put it in a folder along with the tax receipts, insurance papers, and the original deed copy from the living trust. Everything still listed under one name, Leonard A. Harris. I poured a small glass of water, drank it, and turned off the lights. The next day, while they were both at work, I made a few calls. First, to Carla Mayfield, my attorney. She's been handling my affairs ever since Lorraine passed. Her office is in a small brick building 2 streets over from the church. When she answered, her voice was the same as always, measured, polite. "Mr. Harris, good to hear from you. Everything all right?" "Not quite," I said. "I need to review the house papers again. Might be time to make some updates." She didn't ask why. "Carla never does." "You still have the trust as the primary holding?" she asked. "I do." "Then nothing's changed on record," she said. "You're still sole owner and beneficiary." Want to come by tomorrow? Yes, I said. And bring a listing agent's contact if you have one. She paused, just a beat. Of course. I'll see you at 10. After that, I called a handyman friend, Earl, from church. Asked if he had a few spare insulation panels. Might be fixing up my garage soon, I said casually. He laughed. You finally gonna turn that thing into a workshop? Something like that, I said. He dropped them off later that afternoon. When Marcus came home and saw the panels by the driveway, he smiled with relief. So you're open to the idea? I looked at him and smiled back. If we're doing something, might as well do it right. He didn't catch the meaning. Over the next week, I let them continue their plans. I didn't fight the new paint samples, didn't argue about boxes, didn't stop Kayla when she talked about her vision for the nursery. I helped move a few things myself, steady and polite. But every time I lifted a box, I made sure to notice how the house looked, how much cleaner it was becoming for the listing photos. Kayla would thank me, cheerful, thinking I'd finally accepted her plan. Marcus looked relieved. I knew we could all make it work, he said one night. Yeah, I said quietly. All in the same direction now. They didn't realize I meant a different direction entirely. That Friday, I stopped by Carla's office again. She had everything ready. The trust papers confirmed ownership beyond question. The sale could proceed whenever I said the word. She'd even spoken with a realtor who specialized in quiet listings. You're sure you want to do this? She asked. I am, I said. But I don't want it to feel like punishment. It's a lesson. For everyone. She nodded. Dignity can teach louder than anger. I signed the preliminary documents and set a timeline for 2 months out. That evening, I came home and found Kayla humming as she painted trim in the hallway. She smiled when she saw me. Doesn't it look brighter already? It does, I said. You've got good taste. She laughed lightly. Told you I'd make it feel new. I nodded. You sure did. Later that night, I sat at the kitchen table again and wrote one sentence on a piece of paper. Sometimes the only way to remind people what's yours is to let them see it go. I folded the note, tucked it in my pocket, and went to bed. The decision was made. When a man decides to act, he doesn't announce it. He just starts. The morning after I signed those papers with Carla, I woke up earlier than usual. The house was still dark. The smell of new paint lingered in the hallway, mixing with coffee grounds. I walked from room to room, slow and quiet, like I always do. My wife's picture hung above the thermostat, her eyes still soft, still reminding me who I was supposed to be. By the time the sun came through the kitchen window, I'd made my list. A short one. Call the realtor Monday. Clear out personal tools and photos. Fix that loose step on the porch. Pay the property tax early. Nothing dramatic. I wanted the house in perfect order. Not to spite them, just to keep my word to Lorraine. She used to say, if you leave a place, leave it clean enough for peace to walk back through. I made breakfast like usual, eggs, toast, and grits. Marcus came out in his work clothes, tie a little off. I straightened it for him like I used to when he was a boy. He smiled, surprised. Thanks, Dad. You're welcome, I said. You working late again tonight? Probably. Big presentation coming up. Good, I said. Make it count. Kayla came out a minute later, wearing one of those wide maternity tops, phone in hand. Morning, Mr. Harris, she said cheerfully. Morning, I said. She poured orange juice, kissed Marcus on the cheek, and started talking about nursery curtains with little stars on them. I nodded at the right moments, finished my breakfast, and headed outside. The garage was half full of their boxes now, baby supplies, storage bins, and whatever else Kayla didn't want inside. My tools were pushed into one corner. I pulled everything out, sorted what I wanted to keep, and set the rest aside. There's something about cleaning your own space that helps clear your thoughts too. Earl, my friend from church, stopped by around 11. He leaned against the fence. Heard you're finally fixing up this garage, he said. Something like that, I told him. He nodded. Good timing. Market's crazy right now. You could sell this place quick if you wanted. I smiled a little. Yeah, I bet I could. He looked at me for a second, then grinned. You got that look like you already made up your mind about something. I usually have, I said. He laughed and clapped me on the shoulder before leaving. Inside, Kayla was on a video call with her mother. She was walking the woman through the hallway, showing off the progress. I caught the tail end of her sentence. We'll move his stuff out next week. Marcus already agreed. I didn't interrupt. Just nodded politely when she noticed me and stepped into the kitchen. When Marcus came home that night, he tried to start the talk again. Dad, about the garage idea. I stopped him with a small wave of my hand. Don't worry about it, I said. Everything's fine. He looked confused. So, you're okay with it? I'm at peace, I said. That's all that matters. It wasn't a lie. I was more at peace than I'd been in months. The next day I met with the realtor Carla recommended, Mrs. Lyons, a middle-aged woman with a calm voice and sharp sense of timing. We sat in the living room, and I showed her around. It's a solid house, she said. You've kept it up beautifully. Thank you, I said. I want a quiet sale. No yard signs yet. Let's start with private buyers. Understood, she said. Given this neighborhood, I'll have offers within weeks. You can stay through closing if you need to. That'll be fine. She looked around again. And your family's okay with the sale? They will be, I said. When she left, I called Carla. Everything's in motion, I told her. She paused. You sure you're ready for the fallout? I'm not aiming for fallout, I said. Just clarity. That evening, Kayla came home with baby clothes and little shopping bags. She spread them out on the couch, tiny socks, onesies, soft blankets. I stood in the doorway, watching. They're cute, I said. She smiled, proud. Aren't they? I can't wait to hang them in the nursery. In the front room? I asked. She nodded. Of course. I didn't answer. Just gave her a small nod, then stepped outside to water the plants. The pecan tree had started dropping leaves early that year, like it was preparing for change too. Later that night, after they'd gone to bed, I sat at the kitchen table again. There's something sacred about late-night silence, the kind that helps a man sort his emotions into boxes. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even hurt anymore. I was focused. I opened the folder Carla had prepared, property documents, the trust confirmation, the draft sale agreement. I read through each page carefully, signing where necessary. Then I placed the signed pages back in the envelope and left them by the front door for pickup the next morning. Before heading to bed, I looked around the living room one last time. The new paint, the half-assembled crib leaning against the wall, the smell of Kayla's candles, all of it looked temporary to me. They just didn't know it yet. Over the next 2 weeks, I let life play out as if nothing had changed. I helped carry in groceries, fixed a leaky faucet, even joined them for a Sunday barbecue in the backyard. The more I smiled, the more relaxed they seemed. Kayla started referring to the house as our home again, her voice lighter, her attitude warmer. Marcus seemed relieved, thinking everything had settled. It was almost peaceful, on the surface. Behind the scenes, Mrs. Lyons was showing the property quietly to qualified buyers. She was good at what she did. By the second week, we already had 3 offers. All above asking. She called me one afternoon while I was in the garage sorting tools. Mr. Harris, she said, we've got a strong offer, cash buyer, ready to close in 4 weeks. That'll do, I said. Let's move forward. Would you like a public sign-up now? Not yet, I said. When the time's right, we'll make it official. A few days later, Marcus and Kayla hosted a small dinner. Just family, her sister, her mother, and a couple of friends. They wanted to celebrate the new chapter. Kayla went all out, table set fancy, candles lit, music soft in the background. Everyone was smiling. At one point during dinner, Kayla's mother said, "It's wonderful that you all have this space. So many young couples struggle to get started." Kayla nodded proudly. "We're blessed, truly. Marcus's dad has been so generous letting us stay here. Once the baby comes, we'll make it permanent." I looked up from my plate. "Permanent?" Her mother smiled at me. "Oh, she means building a life here. This home has such good energy." I smiled back politely. "It's treated me well." No one caught the way I said it, me. That night, after everyone left, I walked to the porch with a glass of water. Marcus joined me after a while. He leaned on the railing, looking tired but content. "Dinner went well," he said. "It did." "Kayla's happy again," he said. "Thanks for being patient." "I'm always patient," I said. "Doesn't mean I'm blind." He frowned a little. "You still upset about before?" "No," I said. "I stopped being upset when I made my decision." He looked at me, puzzled. "What decision?" I shook my head. "You'll see soon enough." He didn't ask again. The next morning, I got the call from Carla. The final paperwork was ready. The buyer, a couple relocating from Charlotte, wanted to close in 2 weeks. They were offering more than I expected. Everything lined up clean and simple. I agreed to the terms, scheduled the signing for the following Friday, and went about my day like nothing was happening. That evening, Kayla walked into the kitchen holding a color sample board. "We decided on sage green," she said proudly. "Perfect for the nursery." "It's a nice color," I said. "Peaceful." She smiled. "That's the goal." Marcus said, "You're okay with everything now?" "I'm okay," I said. "Completely." And I meant it. That night, when I turned off the light and stood by the window, the house looked different, not because of the paint or the furniture, but because I finally felt calm again. They were redecorating. I was reclaiming. And the day was coming soon when both of those truths would meet in the same room. The official sale closed on a Wednesday morning, 2 days before Kayla's planned baby reveal and housewarming gathering. Carla sat across from me in her office, sliding the last of the documents across the desk. "It's done," she said. "Funds will clear by tomorrow morning." I nodded, calm. "Good. Send the notice to my P.O. box. I'll handle everything else from there." She looked at me carefully. "You're sure you don't want to tell them ahead of time?" I folded the papers neatly into the folder. "They've already been told, Carla. They just don't know it yet." She didn't push. She'd worked with me long enough to know that when I say something like that, it's not out of spite. It's out of finality. That Friday afternoon, the driveway was full. Kayla's friends brought decorations, Marcus grilled in the backyard, and the music played just loud enough for the neighbors to hear. Balloons hung from the porch, "It's a boy," and someone had set up a dessert table under the pecan tree. It looked like a celebration. And it was. Just not the one they thought it was. I stayed quiet most of the day, helping where needed, moving chairs, setting drinks out, greeting guests. Nobody knew a thing. The buyers weren't moving in until the end of the month, so the timing was perfect. Around 3 o'clock, Miss Ora walked over with her cane and a covered dish. She handed it to me and said under her breath, "It's happening today, ain't it?" "Yes, ma'am," I said. "Today's the day." She nodded once, slow. "Then make it clean, Leonard. No yelling, no bitterness. Let your piece do the talking." "I plan to," I said. By 5, the house was full. Kayla was glowing, moving from room to room showing off her decorating. "And this," she said proudly, "will be the nursery. I wanted soft colors so it feels calm, you know?" Her mother clapped her hands. It's perfect. You've made this place beautiful. Marcus smiled at me from the corner, grateful that things looked settled. See, Dad, he said. Everything worked out. I nodded. Everything did. At 6 sharp, the doorbell rang. Kayla called out, "Can someone get that?" I opened it. Standing there were Carla and Mrs. Lyons, the realtor. Both dressed professional, both carrying folders. Kayla looked confused. "Mr. Harris, who are they?" I stepped aside and let them in. "Ladies, come on in." Carla smiled politely. "Evening, everyone." "Sorry to interrupt." Marcus frowned. "Dad, what's going on?" I looked at him. "Just a little house business. Won't take long." The music in the background faded when someone turned the volume down. Conversation stopped. Everyone watched. Carla laid her briefcase on the table and opened a folder. "Mr. and Mrs. Harris," she said calmly, "we finalized the sale of this property 2 days ago. The closing was completed Wednesday morning. The new owners take possession in 3 weeks." For a few seconds, no one said anything. You could have heard a spoon drop in the kitchen. Kayla blinked, her smile vanishing. "What are you talking about?" Mrs. Lyons stepped in. "Your father-in-law sold the property privately. Everything was handled through his trust, which means it was fully within his rights." Kayla's voice cracked. "Sold? To who?" "To a family moving in from North Carolina," Mrs. Lyons said. "They'll be here on the 1st. Marcus looked at me, eyes wide. "Dad, you sold the house?" I met his gaze. "I did." "Why," he said, voice rising. "You could have told us." "I could have," I said. "But you stopped hearing me a long time ago." Kayla stepped forward. "You can't just, this is our home." "No," I said quietly. "It's my home. You were guests. I treated you like family. You treated me like space that needed rearranging." She opened her mouth, then closed it again. Carla started gathering her things. "All funds have cleared. Mr. Harris will vacate according to his new lease, and you'll have 30 days to move your belongings before the new owners arrive. Everything's legal and documented." Marcus's shoulders slumped. "Dad, where are you even going to go?" "I already have a place," I said. "A small apartment 2 streets over, closer to church." Kayla stammered, You planned this?" "I planned peace," I said. "That's all I ever wanted." Her mother stepped back, shaking her head. "Lord have mercy," she whispered. Miss Ora's voice came from the doorway. "Don't say Lord's name in vain. The man just claimed what was his." The room stayed silent. Finally, Marcus spoke, voice quiet now. "You really think we deserved this?" I looked at him a long time. "Deserve's got nothing to do with it. You made a choice, son. You let someone talk about me like I was a problem to fix. And you stayed quiet. This isn't revenge. It's a reminder that silence costs." He looked down at the floor. Kayla turned to him, whispering harshly, "You said the deed was already in your name." He shook his head. "I thought it was, Kayla. I really did." Mrs. Lyons handed me the final envelope, confirmation of funds and the buyer's closing statement. I thanked her, shook her hand, and walked them to the door. When I turned back, everyone was still standing where they'd been. I looked around the room one last time. "You've got a good start ahead of you," I said. "Use this time to build something of your own. Not on someone else's foundation." No one spoke. I nodded to Miss Ora. "Save me a plate later," I said. She smiled. "You know I will." Then I walked out onto the porch. The evening air was heavy with the smell of barbecue and silence. Behind me, I could hear muffled voices, confusion, disbelief, a few angry tones, but none of it touched me. The for sale sign was already planted in the yard by Mrs. Lyons before she left. Red letters bright against the grass. It looked right where it was. I took one last look at the house, the place where Lorraine and I built a life, raised a son, buried our youth, and kept our faith. Then I stepped off the porch and walked down the path to my truck. As I opened the door, Marcus called after me. "Dad, wait." I turned. He stood there, hands at his sides, face drawn. "You really gone?" "I'm home, son," I said. "Just not here anymore." He nodded, eyes wet, and didn't try to stop me. I got in the truck, started the engine, and drove off slow. The sunset followed me the whole way to my new place. I moved into my new apartment the next day, a small, one-bedroom place above an old grocery store on Cascade Avenue. Nothing fancy. Just a clean space with a sturdy lock, a window facing west, and enough quiet to hear myself think again. I furnished it with what I needed, my recliner, the oak coffee table I built for Lorraine 40 years ago, and a few framed photos. I didn't take much else. I didn't need to. Peace doesn't take up much room. The landlord, a church friend named Benny, helped me carry things in. "You sure you don't want help unpacking?" he asked. I smiled. "I've been unpacking most of my life, Benny. This ain't the hard part." He laughed and patted my shoulder. "You good, Leonard. You really are." When he left, I stood by the window and looked down at the traffic below. People coming home from work, mothers pushing strollers, kids chasing a basketball across the street. Life moving the way it always does, forward. For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like I was standing in anyone's way. A few days later, I went back to my old neighborhood to pick up the last of my tools. Miss Ora was sitting on her porch, fanning herself, a glass of sweet tea in her hand. "Look at you," she said. "Got that rested look already." I smiled. "I sleep better now." "You should. You earned it." "Marcus around?" I asked. She nodded toward the yard. "He's out back. Been quiet all week. You broke something in him, but not in a bad way. And the kind that makes a man think." I thanked her and walked around the side of the house. The grass was shorter now. Marcus had been keeping it up. He was sitting on the back steps, head low, elbows on his knees. He didn't look up until I was a few feet away. "Hey, Dad." "Hey, son." We stood in silence for a while, just the sound of a neighbor's lawnmower in the distance. "I wanted to come by," he said. But I didn't know what to say. "You don't have to say much," I said. "Sometimes I see it now is enough." He nodded. "I do. I see it." He rubbed his hands together. "I thought I was keeping peace, you know? Between you and Kayla. I thought staying quiet was the right thing." "I know you did," I said. "That's what most good men think before they learn what peace really costs." He looked up. "You were right. About everything. I should have spoken up." I sat beside him. "You're learning. That's all any man can do." We sat there a few minutes, the same spot where he used to sit with me when he was a boy. He looked around the yard, the pecan tree, the porch, the house that used to be ours. "Feels strange seeing it this way," he said. "Like it don't belong to us anymore." "It didn't belong to you when you forgot who built it," I said softly. "But it can belong to you again one day, just not this way." He nodded, quiet. "Kayla's been upset. She feels like you humiliated her." "I didn't humiliate her," I said. I reminded her that actions have weight. Dignity doesn't make noise, but it leaves an echo. He exhaled, long and tired. "I don't know if she'll ever understand." "She might," I said. "Or she might not. Either way, you teach people how to treat you by what you let slide. I let too much slide for too long. Don't do that, son." He looked at me like he was memorizing the words. "I won't." Before I left, I reached into the truck and pulled out a small box. Inside was a wooden crib toy, hand-carved, shaped like a little pecan leaf. "For the baby," I said. Something from the tree we planted together. His eyes welled up. Thank you. Take care of your family, Marcus. And make sure your son grows up knowing that respect is part of love, not separate from it. He nodded again, and this time it felt like something real settled between us, the kind of understanding that comes too late but still matters. When I drove away, I didn't look in the rearview mirror for long. Some chapters deserve to close without being watched. A week later, I got a knock on my apartment door. It was a delivery guy holding a medium-sized box. No return name. Inside was a folded blanket, pale green, the same color Kayla had picked for the nursery, and a note that read, "We found our own place. It's smaller, but it's ours. Thank you for everything. Kayla." I set the blanket on the couch and sat beside it for a while. There was no bitterness in me, just relief. They had finally learned what I'd wanted them to learn all along, that ownership means responsibility, and dignity means knowing when to stand still and when to walk away. These days, my life is simple again. I help the church on weekends, do a little carpentry when my hands feel restless, and sit by the window most evenings watching the sun fall across the street. Sometimes Marcus stops by with the baby. He doesn't say much, just sits with me, feeds the boy a bottle, and talks about work. The baby's growing fast, strong lungs, calm eyes. Every time I hold him, I think of Lorraine and that tree out front, still standing, still dropping pecans year after year. The house is gone, but the roots remain. It's been 6 months since I left that house behind. I still drive past it sometimes on my way to church. The new family keeps it up nice, trimmed yard, fresh paint, children's bikes leaning against the porch rail. I don't feel pain when I see it. I feel something closer to closure. I don't miss the space. I miss what it used to mean. A man's home isn't just walls and rooms, it's a reflection of how he's treated within them. When that reflection turns cold, you don't wait for warmth to come back. You take your warmth with you and start again. Marcus and I talk every week now. He's working hard, raising his son, learning how to lead his own family with respect at the center. Sometimes I catch a flicker of the man I hoped he'd be, patient, measured, aware of his own tone. That's enough for me. Kayla's still guarded when we see each other, but polite. The edge in her voice is gone. Maybe time taught her something. Maybe the baby did. Life has a way of teaching us through smaller versions of ourselves. Last month, they invited me to their new place for Sunday dinner. 2-bedroom apartment, quiet neighborhood. It's not fancy, but it feels peaceful, the kind of peace that comes from earning what you stand in. After dinner, Marcus walked me to my truck. "Dad," he said, "I get it now. I really do. Dignity ain't pride. It's knowing what you've built and not letting anybody chip it away piece by piece." I nodded. "That's right." He looked down at his hands. I thought silence was peace. But silence without respect is just waiting for someone to cross the line. "That's a lesson you paid for," I said. "Don't forget it." He smiled a little. "I won't." When I drove away, I saw them standing in the doorway, Kayla holding the baby, Marcus with his arm around her shoulders. They looked different. Not proud, not broken, just real. And that's all I ever wanted for them. Now my days are quiet. I fix small things around the church, help the neighbors, keep to myself. I drink my coffee slow, walk to the corner store for the paper, and spend my evenings watching the light fade through my window. Sometimes, I still hear Lorraine's voice in my head, "You don't have to raise your voice to raise your value." She was right. Dignity doesn't live in shouting or revenge. It lives in a calm man's decision to stop explaining what should already be known. So if you're listening to this, maybe you felt it too, that slow burn when people stop seeing your worth. Maybe someone's trying to move you out of your own space, 1 inch at a time. Here's what I learned. Don't fight them with anger. Fight them with clarity. Don't beg for respect. Stand where you built it. Because dignity doesn't raise its voice, it just stands its ground. Would you have done what I did? Would you have stayed silent until the truth could speak for itself? Tell me in the comments. And if my story reminded you of your own, hit that subscribe button. I've got more truth to share.